training as to how they can support and ensure the participation of consumers within standardization processes. This can happen if we put our concerted efforts together. I'm sure we can do it as Working Group 23. At the moment, there are quite a number of projects underway. We were talking even about the manual, development of a manual, training. All these are initiatives to try and have collaborative efforts which can help, the world to become a better place for consumers. Because remember, standards are made for consumers. Consumer participation is very key. The consumers themselves need continuous training. And earlier on, we did agree that not every consumer can speak on behalf of consumers. It's the consumer representatives, those with a passion, and we need to continuously push for that. I'm sure my 5 minutes could be over. I see Henry putting on his glasses. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for conforming. And you are right. I was trying to watch the time as I come in. And ladies and gentlemen, I bring you another eminent lady, Emma, as she walks in to the podium elegantly. Emma has 20 years experience as a technical specialist at the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications, one of the technical infrastructures entities for the Department of Trade, Industry, and Competition of South Africa. Emma currently is responsible of maintaining technical regulations for numerous safety critical products to protect public health, safety, and the environment, such as plastic carrier bags, building materials, mechanical devices, chemical disinfectants, personal protective equipment. She's also a member of several technical committees of the South African Bureau of Standards, responsible for developing, maintaining South Africa's national standards for regulated products. She's involved in standardization, and her involvement in standardization extends to technical committee at ASO, the Africa Standard Organization, and ISO. So Emma, technically you are home, but also as a specialist, all the things that you are working with, I saw them in Nikki's presentation and also Catherine's presentation, where I saw gadgets being recycled, looking at the life cycle. So Emma, we are greatly honored to have you, and you have got a minimum of 5 minutes, a maximum of 5 minutes to share with us. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I hope my message will still go through after lunch. I know that people experience a slump after lunch, so hopefully I won't put you to sleep. You will be fully awake to get the message. So thank you, Mr. Chimera, for the introduction, and thank you to ISO for this opportunity to address this forum. It is a privilege, and I really appreciate it. So I think we've had a lot of messages which addressed mostly what consumers themselves can do in terms of participation in standardization processes. So I think I will change my message slightly, because most of the things that I wanted to say have already been said. So my message is directed at NSBs, National Standardization Bodies. I will use our example as South Africa to show that the NSB should be the driving force that encourages consumer participation in all standardization processes. So for instance, ISO, you can see through Copolco how they have deliberate strategies, how they put so much effort to ensure that they are consumers within the whole ISO system. So that means that our national standardization bodies have a similar duty to actually be the driving engine, to be the leadership, the management of participation within standardization processes, of making sure that consumers are involved in standardization processes. So the example that I'm sharing with you, I'm from the South African Bureau of Standards, TC007, and I'm standing here in this forum. I'm not a standards writer or in the NSB, I'm in a regulatory body. However, through their strategies, they have involved the different stakeholders within this space so that we can then come together and have a forum that actually drive consumer interest. Our main objective as the TC is to ensure that it's not only to ensure that we have standards that actually protect consumer interests, but also standards that can be used by all the other stakeholders that will actually drive growth and appreciation of consumer protection within our country. So the first principle that we use is that all standards which are mainly geared for consumer protection and in line with today's topic, also to promote the circular economy. They are a shared responsibility, so the NSB cannot do them alone. Government entities, such as ourselves, or private sector, they cannot do them alone. Consumers as well, they need the expertise of the people who can actually develop standards that can safeguard their interests. So we need to ensure that all these parties are involved in the standardization process. So some of the strategies that the SABS has adopted and are actually using through TC007 is the affirmation of the right of consumers to be heard, to be represented in all SABS committees. So that is the strategy of the NSB itself. And they ensure that this strategy filters through all their committees, not only our Kopolco Mira committee in the SABS, but throughout the NSB. So each committee has to be aware that they need civil society voice, consumer voice represented in the TC, and it will then filter through into the work that they do as technical committees. So one of the strategies that they use is the strategic partnership that we have with the consumer body. So this is where leadership and management comes in. So NSBs should understand that consumers will not just show up and say, we are here to represent, without them being brought into the process, being made to understand what standards are, how we develop standards, and what their contribution into that process is. So that's where the NSB must show leadership. And by doing that, you identify the consumer bodies in your country, you approach them, and where possible, you have a strategic partnership. I don't want to use the word legal, but if you have a memorandum of understanding with your strategic partner, then you clear the expectations from both sides. Consumer bodies know what they are coming in for. You also know what you will be gaining from their participation in the standardization process. So this is very critical because we need to be clear that it is us as NSBs who will actually encourage and grow this relationship that will then filter out through the standardization process. So the third point that I'm making here has already been said. You need to do research. You need to understand your environment. I come from a very diverse country, diverse in religion, cultures, race. So we come from a very complex country, and to have representation in standardization also means you need to understand, firstly, who does this standard benefit the most, and try to get that a group to be represented in your standardization processes. So you need to be able to segment your stakeholders. So our understanding is that, I think this principle was also emphasized this morning, we are all consumers. I may be working for a regulatory body as my official appointment, but I'm also a customer. Disabled people are also customers, elder people are customers. So when you understand how these standards are supposed to help these different groups and try to get their voice in that technical committees. So focus on having different groups participating in the technical committees. So the value of having consumer awareness in all the technical committees is that each TC, when they do their strategic business plan, which they do on an annual basis, they have to then evaluate or assess who their stakeholders are. And it is through that process where they will identify these different groups and bring them at the technical committee level. So another